In the vast and mysterious universe, the Sun, our nearest star, holds the power to change everything we know. While it provides us with warmth, light, and life, it can also unleash unpredictable bursts of energy that could potentially devastate our technology-dependent world. This is not science fiction. This is a real, looming threat that could happen sooner than you think. Let's dive into what would occur if a massive solar storm hit Earth. The power of the Sun, solar storms explained. The Sun isn't just a glowing ball of fire in the sky, it's a giant fusion reactor that continuously emits vast amounts of energy. However, not all of this energy is harmless. Every 11 years, the Sun goes through a cycle called the solar cycle, during which the Sun's activity rises and falls. During periods of high solar activity, there are more sunspots, cooler and darker patches on the Sun's surface. These sunspots aren't directly responsible for solar flares, but their strong magnetic fields make them the perfect launch pads for massive bursts of energy, known as solar flares. When the Sun's magnetic fields become tangled and twisted, they can snap and realign, sending out bursts of energy and charged particles into space. If Earth happens to be in the line of fire, it could mean big trouble. In fact, scientists predict that the solar cycle will peak in 2024, and with it, the possibility of a major solar storm increases. Yikes! What exactly is a solar storm? A solar storm occurs when the Sun releases an enormous burst of energy. This energy consists of high-energy particles, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections. These coronal mass ejections can send huge waves of plasma and electromagnetic radiation toward Earth, potentially causing violent geomagnetic storms that disrupt our planet's magnetic field. At first glance, solar storms might seem like a cool celestial event, especially when you consider the colorful auroras they create in the sky. These light displays are the result of solar storm particles interacting with Earth's atmosphere. While they're beautiful to look at, the rest of the effects of a solar storm are far from charming. The immediate effects of a solar storm on Earth. So, what exactly would happen if Earth was hit by a massive solar storm? The first thing you might notice is a visual spectacle in the sky auroras lighting up in places where they've never been seen before, like the lower latitudes. However, don't let the beauty fool you. This is just the beginning of a much larger, far more serious issue. After a solar storm hits, the communication systems we rely on daily would begin to break down. Things like satellite GPS, radio transmissions, and even cell phones could stop working entirely. Imagine trying to get through your day without your phone or internet. Frustrating, right? That's exactly what would happen, and it wouldn't stop there. Our power grids could also be at risk. The high-energy particles from a solar storm can wreak havoc on electrical systems, and our reliance on technology means that we'd be vulnerable in ways that would have seemed unimaginable just a few decades ago. Without electricity, everyday tasks like buying groceries with your credit card, turning on the lights, or even keeping your refrigerator running could become impossible. The impact on space and astronauts. Astronauts in space are not immune to the dangers of solar storms either. These storms unleash intense radiation that could be deadly to astronauts. Without proper shielding, astronauts could suffer from radiation sickness, and the risk of cancer down the line would increase significantly. Not only that, but communication between the astronauts and mission control could be disrupted, leaving them isolated and in the dark. If you thought the Earth-bound issues were troubling, just imagine the chaos unfolding in space. The dangers of coronal mass ejections. Now, here's where things really start to get wild. After the initial solar flares hit, a more dangerous phenomenon could occur: a coronal mass ejection. Coronal mass ejection are large bursts of solar wind and magnetic fields rising from the Sun's atmosphere. If one of these blasts heads straight for Earth, the effects could be catastrophic. In 1859, a solar storm known as the Carrington event struck Earth, knocking out telegraph communications and sending sparks flying from telegraph wires. While the world's reliance on telegraph systems at the time was minimal, today's technology is far more vulnerable. Imagine a global blackout where all technology from power grids to satellite systems ceases to function. That's the kind of chaos we could expect from a coronal mass ejection. What happens to technology during a solar storm? In today's hyper-connected world, we depend on technology for everything: communication, transportation, finance, healthcare, and more. A solar storm with intense electromagnetic radiation could destroy entire power grids and communication systems. A blackout of this scale would be much worse than just losing Wi-Fi for a few hours. We'd be facing a complete collapse of modern society's infrastructure. For example, planes in flight could lose contact with air traffic control, potentially causing crashes. Trains and subways could suddenly stop running, leaving millions stranded. And it doesn't stop there. Hospitals would lose power, making it impossible to treat patients. A global crisis would unfold as cities, hospitals, and industries came to a standstill. The long-term effects and recovery. Solar storms could last for hours or days, and when the dust settles, we wouldn't simply return to business as usual. Recovery would take weeks, if not months. Rebuilding power grids, restoring communication systems, and repairing satellite networks could take years, and by then, many of us would still be living without basic technology. Global supply chains would grind to a halt, affecting everything from food delivery to manufacturing. Without the technology to track shipments, supply shortages would become common and prices for essential goods would skyrocket. The real kicker: the long recovery would likely mean weeks or months without access to things we take for granted, like the internet, electricity, and medical services. And don't even get me started on how long it would take to restore confidence in the systems that broke down during the storm. Preparing for a solar storm. What you can do. Preparing for a solar storm involves taking proactive steps to minimize potential damage. While predicting the timing of such events is difficult, NASA and other scientists are working on technologies to forecast solar activity. To be ready, stock up on non-perishable food, water, and a first aid kit for emergencies. Invest in surge protectors to safeguard your electronics, and if a storm is imminent, unplug devices to avoid damage from power surges. Consider backup power options like solar panels or generators to keep your home running if the grid fails. Additionally, it's wise to explore off-grid living solutions to maintain essential functions if modern technology becomes unavailable for extended periods. What if it never returned to normal? What if the solar storm caused a permanent global blackout? What if the world, as we know it, was forever changed? Could we recover from such an event, or would we be left to rebuild from scratch, like humanity in the Stone Age? It's impossible to say. The world would be forced to adapt and rebuild, but it's clear that such a massive solar storm would leave its mark on our civilization. It would be a stark reminder of how fragile our technology-dependent world truly is. However, even in the face of such catastrophe, humanity has always managed to endure and adapt. It's the human spirit that drives us to rebuild and innovate, even after the most devastating events. And there you have it, folks. Who knew the sun could be so dramatic, right? If you enjoyed learning about how a solar storm could shake up our world, don't forget to hit that like and make sure to subscribe. Stay safe out there and keep looking up. Just maybe don't stand directly under the sun. Catch you next time.